Welcome to Brave Together podcast, an empowering resource for the parents of children with disabilities, neurodivergence, and all unique needs.
When I think of the let them theory, I think of it as a call to release codependency. And codependency is really that desire to control other people's emotional states such that you feel better. And so it's about being able to release the need that everybody feels the same way you do, thinks the same way you do, aligns in the same way you do. And when you're able to do that and allow them to have their feelings, then you do have freedom.
Hello, Brave friends. Welcome to Ask Us Anything. I'm Jessica Pate, your host of Brave Together podcast, and I'm joined by two fantastic fellow Brave Mom co-hosts to help answer your questions.
Hi, I'm Susanna Peace Lavelle. I'm an author, a certified life coach and soul care coach, and an advocate for the health and wellness of disability families everywhere.
Hi, I'm Dr. Zoe, a licensed psychotherapist, writer, speaker, author, and complex shame expert.
We are gathered here to share our experiences,
share our wisdom,
and answer your questions.
Have a caregiving question? Find the link in the show notes to leave us your message.
May you feel seen and heard and not alone.
Ask us anything. Oh, it's so good to see you.
Hi.
Hello, hello. How was summer?
Is it over? It has to be over. Summer was fast. I feel like it was the fastest summer. It's the last summer before my son's senior year in college. And so I hope he'll be home next year, but this might be the last one. So I'm trying to just soak in the reality that this might have been the last one. But he'll graduate in May and maybe he'll be right back home. We'll see. And yeah, my daughter is getting ready to start junior high. It's just a lot. It's a lot. It was a fast summer. What about you guys?
I would echo that same sentiment exactly, like very fast. I think that the summers become shorter and shorter, at least in public school, it seems that way. And we are in senior year now. So 12th grade is here, and I'm trying to savor the moments. I know there are going to be a lot of firsts and a lot of lasts, and I'm here for it.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I wish both your kids in significant years to just the best. I just wish them the best experience. We're in a whole new phase in that we're not governed by school anymore. We're not governed by school calendars anymore, unless Kate decides that she wants to go to college. But otherwise, we're done. We're in a new phase, and Ryan is in the trial period with a day program. And we're trying to figure out, is a morning shift better or an afternoon shift at the day program better, because he can't nap there, and what's better in terms of staffing, peer population, his energy level, the activities. So we're figuring it all out, and he started VICAT. So, fingers crossed, let's say a lot of prayers that this works for the hyperphagia and preoccupation with food. It takes 3 to 6 months. I heard somebody say a year, maybe, to take effect. Everyone's different. So we're hoping for no or minimal side effects. We're okay so far, and we'll see. And yes, summer goes fast, way too fast.
Well, I'm so happy to be with you both. I mean, I feel like it's so nice to get settled back into our cozy routine. So that makes me happy.
I agree. And what a way to start off season 9, to talk about the Mel Robbins Let Them theory. And, how does this book apply to us as caregivers? It's such a great book. It could be read and reread again and again. I've underlined and put asterisk marks, and I really could go back, and I probably will. So I just was so curious to hear from you all. How does this apply to us as caregivers? The big tenet of the Let Them theory is releasing control of what you cannot change. No matter how hard you try, you'll never be able to control or change another person. The only person you can control is you. Your thoughts, your actions, your feelings. So how do we stop trying to control how others react to our children's diagnosis or our child? How do we not try to control family and friends who respond to us and to our children in a certain way. So we'll talk about a few scenarios of where this plays out in our life and how we can free ourselves if we were to apply let them and let me. And we'll define what let me means as well. What is one area that stood out to either one of you, like right away, this is how this could be applied in my life as a caregiver?
First of all, I have to say that this is one of the most transformational books that I have read in my adult lifetime, and I am not exaggerating. And you both know me. We read a lot, right? Because we're always looking for, another tool, another resource to help us get through the next minute sometimes. But I will say, and especially for me, yes, as a caregiver, but I think we need to start with little Susanna, little Jessica, little Dr. Zoe, the ways that we were conditioned, the ways that we learned how to be in this world and our responses to our surroundings and et cetera. And so I feel like, yes, as a caregiver, it's even more so my journey and my quest to let go of control. Like I am an exhausting cyclone of trying to control everything and everyone around me, like the plans, the timing. And so I think we start with ourselves before we are caregivers, because it's this whole message here with Mel Robbins, bless your heart, Mel Robbins. It was this very, very, very significant sort of shift in consciousness for me. And so that I think was the most helpful in no matter what hat I'm wearing in the moment, right? So I just was able to have a bird's eye view, and it was really uncomfortable and sad when I realized how many people in my life, how many things, scenarios, situations really, really, really wanted me to, or lent me to try to fix.
Yep.
Scary, actually. Sorry, everybody in this life.
But it's also so powerful. And for me, my tagline in my work has been, we're not fixing them, we're fixing you. And that changes everything. And so as I was reading through, it was just so much resonating with me, like, yes, yes, yes. But when we apply it to the caregiver life, I'm always talking about relationships with others and talking about partner dynamics and things like that. But as a parent, I know the trap that a lot of us get into, and we've got to walk this line, is trying to optimize. I think we would say we're trying to optimize everything that our children are able to do, right? We're pouring into them, we're getting all the therapies, we're doing all these things in an attempt to optimize. When sometimes it's really just an attempt to fix them. And as a caregiver, I even still at this point have to remember to let Sully just be her and not try to fix and change. And yes, of course, we want to give our children all the things that they can do to become the best that they can in the world. But sometimes there's a line we cross when we're really trying to fix and change them instead of just letting them be who they are.
And when we're trying to fix and change them, we're also trying to fix and change every doctor, teacher, OT, PT, therapist, ABA provider, whatever,
family member.
And it creates this set of expectations. And that's something that she talks about in her book. We can be free of that if we just really stop and and I don't mean let the team go or let the medical team go or let the IEP team go. I don't think we mean that in terms of applying this and letting go of control. But it's if you are constantly babysitting the medical team, the IEP team, that whoever is touching your child, and you're constantly analyzing it just sounds exhausting. It sounds exhausting. And I think parents mean well because they're trying to protect their child. They're trying to do the best for their child. They may not even realize their subconscious desire to fix or heal at all. But it requires pausing as you're listening to our listeners, anyone hearing this, this does require some pausing and some reflection, self-reflection, to see, where am I spinning my wheels and expending so much emotional and mental energy in terms of caring for my child, and what can I let go of? And that is a hard question, because a lot of people say, well, there's nothing. I can't not control. I can't let go of control of anything, but there are aspects that we're holding onto that we can.
Yeah, there are. And sometimes we are not aware of the emotional load that we carry. And so I can give you an example. When I put Sully into Latham Center in Massachusetts, there were friends who heard, everybody, my whole family, everybody knew about it, obviously. And I heard through a friend that another friend had some negative things to say about it and about me for making that choice. Almost kind of like, oh, wow, I can't believe she would send her daughter away. Why would she do something like that? And that is, that creates some emotions, right? That creates some feelings. And there's a desire in me to defend myself and to explain to the whole world why this was actually really good for Sully and for us and everybody. But actually, I didn't do that. And that's part of the let them theory is it's okay. I can let them think. People who have never had a special needs child, right, whose children grew up and went away to college and, have never had these types of experiences and only see me on the outside and Sully on the outside, I can just let them think that about me. And it's okay. Or I can spend a lot of emotional energy on it. And that's part of the let them theory too. So when you think about, I can't give anything away, well, that's something, those kinds of things, what other people think of you, what other people think of your children, those are things that you can just let them think.
I actually think that this is the perfect segue to talk about the two-part, right? The two essential parts of the theory, which was very, very impactful for me to actually start putting this into practice. Because I do think that a lot of times we're like, let them, like, all right, kind of like we say like, okay, well, I'm going to bless and release, goodbye, right? But instead you have the let them, right? Which is to give others the freedom to be who they are, think what they think, do what they do, whatever, however behaviors, however they need to act out. And then you take that energy you would have put on your thoughts, your opinions, your emotions around what they're doing, who they are. And now you're shifting that to yourself, which is the now let me part of it, which is what you're saying, Dr. Zoe, like you were like, okay, so that's not going to affect me. And now all of a sudden I have all these resources and energy for me to focus on my own responses and actions, or to focus on then finding someone who's going to be a better, more aligned member of our team. Right? Or the child that we are caregiving, fill in the blank, right? So
yes. And I want to add to the let me. She says, it's about self-awareness, compassion, empowerment, and personal responsibility, that we now take responsibility for our next move, for creating the life and the relationships and the connections that we want. Because like you said, we stop expending all this energy on trying to control other people's behaviors and emotions and opinions and thoughts about us, about our child, about our life. And we now have an abundance of energy to create the life that we do want.
Yes. And even as you say that, I think of the mom out there that may be feeling like, but I do feel stuck. And I don't know how to create a life I want when I have all of these responsibilities and things. And maybe I've put some dreams off in, my life to care for my child. And so how do I even do that? And I'm not saying we have an answer. I just want to acknowledge a woman out there who may be feeling like she doesn't have options. And I also want to just help her recognize that, yes, maybe all of the options that you could possibly want aren't present, but we always have options in the moments, in the way that we approach situations. And so maybe if she can just think of that, not do I have all the options that I want, but what options do I have and how can I optimize those?
Mm-hmm. Another area that I think we could apply this is when professionals dismiss our concerns. So whether that's a doctor or a nurse or a teacher or somebody as a part of the, school team, whoever it is, we can just say, let me find another doctor. Let me find another specialist. Let me find another geneticist. Let me find another therapist who will hear my concerns, who believes that my child needs testing, fill in the blank, whether that's psychological testing or, testing for autism or medical testing, genetic testing. Like, let me find somebody else who is going to honor what my gut is telling me.
I can definitely co-sign on that one. Jessica, I think we've all had so many different experiences. I think what we've experienced the most with Arizona has been her BII support, her one-to-one support. Sometimes they start off really strong and then they get beat down by my beautiful daughter who likes to express herself. And so then that sometimes can be a long process. And so just continuing to advocate for that, but also not getting into the exhausting cycle of trying to manage everyone, right? Because that's what we're trying to, it's like this perfect balance. And the beautiful thing about a new practice and learning a new practice is that you get to do exactly that, practice. And so that's what I would also say to the listener right now who's like, this sounds phenomenal in theory. Yeah, it is. In theory, and then just requires leaning into it, just being I'm open to learning something new because I want additional energy, etc.
So true. And let's pause for just a moment because we want to hear from our new sponsor for this episode. This very first episode of Season 9 is sponsored by Malaga Bank. Malaga Bank has been We Are Brave Together's 5K sponsor many times, and now they're supporting this resourceful and far-reaching podcast. Since Malaga Bank opened its first office in Palos Verdes Estates, California, on March 14, 1985, they have been a strong proponent of our local community and helping one another. They believe in supporting our community and in patronizing local businesses. As a full-service community bank, they have been serving the financial needs of the South Bay community of Los Angeles for over 40 years, offering a variety of personal banking products, business banking products, and loan products that compare favorably with those at larger financial institutions. Malaga Bank's philosophy is to provide a broad range of financial products and services to the entire South Bay community with the best in hospitality and service to go along with them.
I have a question for you two. I'm just curious and wondering because I have an answer for this question myself, but I'd love to hear from you two if there is any particular area in your life right now or person in your life right now where this has been the most effective for you to practice with this particular person or group or...
I mean, I have an absolute yes. It would be my ex-husband for sure. And that I had to get to that point of just accepting him, who he is as he is, not trying to change, accepting who he is and letting him be. And then, of course, unfortunately, the result was that wasn't something a marriage I could stay in. But yeah.
I think of a couple situations. One is with my oldest and thinking about his launch now that he's out of college. As much as I want to okay, and now you need to do this, and now you need to do this, and now you need to do that, and then you need to move out. Just because, it's age appropriate. He's going to be 25 and he had a job and then he doesn't have a job because, that's what happens with, startups. And so would I like to control how hard he's working to get another job? Do I wish he was more of a hustler? But that's not his nature. And so I need to accept him, accept his nature, accept that he's working. It doesn't mean I think we've probably talked about this before. I feel like I talk about this all the time when you have adult children, finding the line between enabling and supporting. But just let him do his pace. Let him do things his way.
Yeah.
And then let me focus on just staying connected to him instead of thinking about all the stuff and getting so anxious about launch. Just stay here. Let him figure that out. Yes, we still probably need to give a deadline to move out, but just enjoy him, accept him, and not try to change anything.
Yes. I love that. I had to do the same with my 24-year-old. So I understand.
I mean, I have done a lot of work in my lifetime with regard to becoming more awakened and more spiritually conscious. And I will say that again, like this book really helped me in terms of how I interact with my now ex-husband, because when we got divorced years ago, right? Over a decade ago, I was still trying to control, the times and the plan and you're right. And he is more of a go with the flow. He's very busy. He's, very successful in business. And it would bother me so much if things didn't go according to my plan. But I will say within the last couple of months, I just have released, honestly, all expectation, not to not hold anyone accountable, but just release all expectation and really be able to not respond out of like frustration or resentment or whatever it is because things aren't going my way. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It does not matter. You get to choose how you're going to live your life. I cannot expect you to change, nor do I want you to change. This is the opportunity for me to be able to lean into this practice, like this experience of releasing. And it has been the most abundant. It's like almost like a quick portal to abundance for me. Really, I can't explain it. Like, things are so up and down in my life right now, financially, so many things, but it doesn't matter. I feel so at peace because I am taking that energy. And honestly, I am letting me now be so present with my senior in high school. I don't know what's next for her, but I do know that it will never be exactly the same as it is right now with the, early wake ups and rushing to get to school and pickups and homework and, parent teacher conferences and IEPs. She's going to have her exit IEP this year. I'm saying all of this to say that this is what I mean by this space that I feel so palpably because of the let them and then therefore let me. It's just so delicious.
I love that, Susanna. Thank you. Thank you both for sharing. What's another specific, let's do at least one more scenario where we see that this plays out in our lives, whether it's, a school principal gets defensive about accommodations or somebody on the team does, or family members make hurtful comments. Let them doesn't mean you bypass your feelings, and let them doesn't mean you accept poor treatment from anyone. It's just about learning how to respond in the way that is most beneficial to you instead of reacting and, or not having boundaries. Or there are ways that we can handle these different scenarios that come up so that it doesn't rule our day and our week, right? Because oftentimes after uncomfortable experiences with whoever is a part of our child's life, we can just spin and spin and spin. And the truth is, people are going to have negative thoughts about us. People are going to have negative thoughts about our children, but we don't have to control that. We don't have to try to control that because the truth is we can't, right? We can't control that at all. And so give everyone the space to live their lives, the space and the grace. I think if we stop trying to control it, I think our reactions are going to be so different when things don't go the way we want them to go, or people don't say what we want them to say to us or about our child. It's like it gives you breathing room. It gives you space, not like a wall, like this isn't going to affect me. I don't mean it in a hard way, like you harden up. I don't have to let that bother me. I don't have to let that control me. I don't have to let that make me spin and spin of how I should have handled it differently or what I should have done or what I should do differently next time.
When I think of the let them theory, I think of it as a call to release codependency. And codependency is really that desire to control other people's emotional states such that you feel better. Because if they feel the way you want them to feel, then you feel better. And so it's about being able to release the need that everybody feels the same way you do, thinks the same way you do, aligns in the same way you do. And when you're able to do that and allow them to have their feelings, then you do have freedom. The problem is that there's an uncomfortable space between you having never done that or not usually doing that and actually applying the behavior. And what you have to do is sit with that uncomfortable feeling of, I'm not going to fix this for them. I'm not going to try to change their thoughts or their feelings or their emotions. I'm going to sit with how uncomfortable that is. And when you're able to do that over time, and you sit through it, it gets better and you feel freer, but it takes time. And I think that's the reason why people don't apply it, is because they start to, and then they get uncomfortable and they're like, oh, wait, this doesn't feel good. They don't agree with me. And I feel like I need to make them feel better and defend and all these things. And what you have to realize is you're attempting to control them to make yourself feel better. But you're the only person in the world that has control over yourself. And so you can learn to self-soothe, you can learn to affirm, you can learn to self-regulate, and then you don't have to control other people.
Yeah. And I feel like it releases other people from being the problem. Like, stop making everybody else the problem.
Right. That's right.
Because we can just ruminate and ruminate. And I know I keep saying the word spin, but we just do. We go and we go and we go. And, if we can let go of, trying to control, trying to get other people to match our expectations, we will be free. We'll be so free.
Yes.
Is there anything that hit you like, I don't like this, when you read anything like where that was hard, like, ouch, that hits close? Or is there anything like, well, okay, in this particular area of the caregiving life, it doesn't really work? Anything like that? I just want to play devil's advocate.
I can't think of anything that made me cringe or anything like that. But I do want to flip it too, because, often it's, yes, us trying to control other people. But what about when other people are trying to control us? How do we apply the theory then when other people need us to think a certain way, feel a certain way, show up in a certain way, maybe want us to over give or that type of thing? How do we then apply the theory to that?
I mean, I would think it's back to the theory, right? Because you're feeling their angst, right? You're feeling their energy, their tone, whatever it might be, their judgment, their side eye, whatever it is, like,
you're the problem in their eyes, right?
Who is she to send her daughter off, right? Kind of thing. I just think you then let them have their feelings and their experiences and their acting out, their behaviors, their words. And then you take the let them theory to sort of let them, and now let me focus on how I'm going to respond to, their issues with me.
Right.
I don't know. It just, to me, I can just see it sort of in a geometrical shape of like this sort of cyclical back and forth. Yeah, we can do this all day. Again, I mean, it's not comfortable often. And especially for those of us who really, really, really are people pleasers. You know what I mean? We want everyone to be happy. We want everybody to like us.
Right.
What if they don't? Not everybody is going to, right? There's 8 billion people in this world.
And it also requires boundaries, because sometimes it's just about letting people feel a certain way. But other times it's actually about having to say no. No, I'm not going to do that. No, that's not okay, right? No, I'm not going to tolerate that. That's also part of the theory. It's not always just being hands off and dealing with it yourself. It's also being able to, when it comes to let me, put up those boundaries and say the hard no's.
Yes.
And then let the person deal with it.
Exactly. Like, even I'm not available for that conversation, period. No sorries, not maybe another time. Yeah, I'm not available to answer that question.
I want to close with one more area. And I want to bring this up with so much love, so much compassion, and so much grace. But another area that we as parents can get into, whether we have typical children or not typical children, kids with disabilities, is we must let our children progress how they're going to progress, when they're going to hit their milestones. And I don't mean we throw out the parent card and we just like say, lovey. No, we still do the OT and the PT and the speech and the early interventions and, therapies are, even private therapies or tutors, but not be ruled by our children's progress and meeting milestones and having victories and like to the point where we micromanage so much. Now, it is going to be hard for people to separate. Like, no, this is just my job. This is what I have to do. But it requires, again, self-reflection. Am I trying to micromanage every detail of my child's life to see them progress because it makes me feel better about me? That means I'm a good mom, because that looks good to the world, because I'm proving my worth as a mom or I'm proving my child's worth. We can really get stuck in that cycle and in that mindset. And, at some point, we have to realize that our child's going to fall on the spectrum of their diagnosis wherever they fall. And it really doesn't, we don't have a lot of control. We don't. And again, I'm not saying you don't do the OT. I'm not saying you don't try new interventions. I'm not saying you don't do research. We all want to do what's best for our child and be current with what we can do to help our child make progress. But it's not about end goals, and milestones and what have you, certain expectations. I think we'll enjoy our child so much more as not somebody to be controlled. And again, what goes back to is we're kind of in that like fixing, healing. I have to fix and heal my child. And we all know that's not the mindset that helps us to really be the best, most loving, compassionate, at peace mother that we can be.
Right. I think the simplest way to say that, and that was beautiful, Jessica, is that we apply the things that we know are helpful to our children and we release the expectation of the outcome.
Perfectly said. Bravo. Perfectly said. Bravo. Yes. So Zoe and Susanna, we talked about a question that we want to ask each other this season. Well, we could do one or the other. And, if we remembered to ask each other this, who knows with menopause these days? I can't remember. But we want to ask each other, what is one superpower that we wish we had in the caretaking life these days? Or we could also say, what's one superpower that we've gained as mothers on this journey that we would like to acknowledge?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
They're both good. I can say both. When I think about a superpower that I would love to have, I wish I could harness all the power of ChatGPT in my brain. It would be amazing. And yeah, we can go to ChatGPT and just ask questions, right? But you have to know the right questions to ask and how to prompt it. If I just had all of that information, oh my goodness, we would be able to make decisions in a split second, right? We'd be able to understand our children's medications, interferences, diagnoses, where's the best practitioners, like all the things. It would just be so nice. So that would be a fantasy if I had all the powers of ChatGPT. And I think that a superpower that I have needed to harness as a mom raising a special needs child is acceptance. I have been one to control everything, and I've been really good at it, right? And my daughter taught me that I just can't. I cannot control certain things. And it's really been a beautiful gift to start to develop that superpower of acceptance.
Beautiful.
What about you, Susanna?
Yeah, well, I can definitely start with what I could use right now. Currently, speaking of menopause, actually, it's such a real thing. It's been a pretty significant shift in my life. And so similar to you, Zoe, in terms of just having extra knowing and understanding, like just the power of information right now. I would say that I would love to have a meal plan that would be so supportive to my sort of like physical hormonal status right now in each moment, where it says, here is 14 grams of fiber, and here is, 20 grams of protein, and here are your measurements for the day and what else you still need to eat. And here is the exact combination of whatever it is right in front of you. I think my quests are always, my quests and interests always relate to food. But I just think about how sometimes we're just kind of running on empty, we're always tired and running around. But imagine if you didn't have to think about, okay, well, what am I going to eat for lunch now that has the protein, has the fiber, has whatever I need for. I think that would be really, really an amazing superpower to possess right now during this senior year of high school for Arizona. And then I think something that I have harnessed over time, and I love this word, what I have not mastered, but what I have definitely been able to conjure up more consistently is presence, like actual consistent presence in my life in terms of the intentional moments with Arizona, just connecting with her, putting things down, and even just getting on her level and making sure we can make eye contact together. I think the superpower is not those moments, but the consistency and the intentionality from my end of, being able to be her caregiver for the last 19 plus years. So yes, this is a great topic. How about you, Jessica?
This is so good. I love hearing what you have to say. And I love, Susanna, that you mentioned something to take care of you versus just something that necessarily, although we know that if we take care of ourselves, it affects our children, because if we are nourishing ourselves, well, then we can be better caregivers and have more energy and have more stamina or whatever, right? So, but I love that you came up with that.
I love that too, but can we also add a 24/7 chef that can prepare it all and get it to you?
Yeah. That's that was sort of implied. Like just
that's implied. All there, just right. There you go. Yes.
I know that, honestly, like if I could have one major luxury, it would be somebody to prepare lunches and dinners. Doesn't even have to be 7 days. Like if I could have that 4 days. 4 days? When you have Thursday? Oh my God.
Thank you.
Yes.
Please. So one superpower that I could definitely use these days, or is this magical power? The same thing. I want to know what's going to be best for Ryan. Like, what does his future hold? He's in this post-school district phase where he's trying things out. And it's really hard for me not to know what's going to work and what's not going to work. It's hard for me to not know his schedule, because I can't properly schedule the month, of caregivers, because I am working, because, any day program that he does is not 7 to 3, 8 to 3, 9 to 3. It's half day. And so I need to fill in other meaningful activities and caregivers. Bring them in for me. So I wish I could see into the future and know what the plan is going to look and feel like. Well, it's so good to be back. And I know that we could spend another 30 minutes diving into this book. Please get the book. Everyone, please get the book. There are nuggets for everyone on this planet. Please get the book. Tell Mel Robbins about this episode. Please share this episode in your stories and tag Mel Robbins. Let her know that we're applying this big, beautiful book of wisdom and practical help to our lives.
Thank you so much, Mel.
Yeah, it was fantastic, helpful book. And thank you, ladies, for the conversation.
Thank you as always.
So good to see you.
Love you all.
Thanks so much for listening today. Do us a favor and leave us a review and a rating so that this podcast can get into the ears and the hearts of more and more moms. Did you know that Brave Together podcast is an extension of our nonprofit organization, We Are Brave Together? We Are Brave Together serves an international community of caregiving moms, offering support groups that are virtual and in-person, educational resources, and low-cost weekend retreats. And we have published our first anthology of caregiving stories entitled Becoming Brave Together, Heroic, Extraordinary Caregiving Stories from Mothers Hidden in Plain Sight. It will encourage and validate every parent caregiver. To join us today, go to wearebravetogether.org. Our support and sisterhood awaits you. Brave Together podcast is for entertainment and education purposes only. It's not a substitute for professional care and should not be relied on for medical or mental health advice. The use of any content on our podcasts, links, show notes, or on our website is to be done at your own personal risk. Please seek out a professional to assess your own medical or mental health concerns, because we are all beautifully complex and the content of this podcast is for a broad audience.